Hey guys, HuShang here. Welcome to another StarCraft 2 lesson. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the Zerg player MMR Philanthrop. And this is part of my Saving Redditors series. We actually haven't done one of these in a little while, but basically the idea is we're scrolling through Reddit. We see somebody with an SOS, and we're going to see what's up. So, Philanthrop wrote that he wants to know what to do better in the late game. And he's got a couple points here. He said he stopped doing injects at some point, didn't switch into Spire earlier enough, and something about Corruptors against Colossi, which you don't really want to do. Didn't go Ultras. So anyways, we'll go through the late game and we'll see what we think he can do better. This is about a diamond level game, I think. D3 or D2, something like that. Okay, so really late third base. So already that's something pretty large that he could do better. Protoss is playing a Robo build. Yeah, so Protoss right now is about 45 workers to 51, so that's pretty decent. That means Zerg's not in too bad of a position. 1-1 upgrades, okay. Yeah, so definitely going into this late game, we're in a fairly okay position. So, let's see where they go from here. If they're going to go Ultra, they're making lots of Hydra off of 69 workers. So generally, this is pretty all in. If you want to play macro with Zerg like this, then you're going to want to go a little bit higher, maybe 75 or 80 workers. 69 is, you're committing quite hard to this push. Now, looking at this army, this actually should work out pretty nice. But we're a bit too focused on these rocks. I don't think these have any huge benefit, to be honest. And our 1-1's done. Yeah, so I think the ideal place to attack on this map is this area. Coming in from this top side, I guess the idea was to maybe see if there's a fourth. But I think this is the most open area, so you should definitely come in from here. And obviously we've given Protoss a lot of time to get up these shield batteries and also warp in an Archon. So giving Protoss way too much time. And I think if I go back a sec, it looks like we built some drones, didn't we? I must have missed it, but there was definitely a huge round of drones, which means that we created all of these units, did an attack, and then we built drones, and it looks like we're still going to commit to the attack. So if we had committed to the attack and then droned, that would make some sense. Or if we had droned and then committed to units, that would also make sense. But kind of going back and forth without attacking doesn't make as much sense. So you definitely want to make sure that's a little tighter. Let's see. I think there actually is going to be a fight here, right? No, we pull back. Okay. So the best thing to do here is to go into Viper. But you can also play Lurker. I think there's some top Zergs that like to play more Lurker against this. But eventually Viper are probably the best answer. Okay, that was some nice Baneling connections. Yeah, so that didn't go too bad at all. You're way ahead in supply. You do have a lot of Hydra, which honestly aren't really the best units. You'd much rather have a lot of Zerglings and use all of this Hydra money into something like Lurkers or Vipers. So you are going for the Lurkers now. But yeah, I think backing up here and just teching up a little bit, maybe spend more of your money on the upgrades would be better. So Protoss is finally taking their fourth. Usually I would aim my attacks to hit as they do this. You were really far ahead, so it was kind of okay to do it before. But generally you try to aim for when Protoss takes a new base. That's when they're the most vulnerable. Yeah, so right now we just have no counter to Colossus. And we have an army that's, you know, really, really weak against Colossus as well. Okay, so we're adding some Lurkers, 9 Lurkers. It's not bad, but it's not very many Lurkers, honestly. It's actually a pretty small amount of Lurkers, so it's not too scary. Scary numbers of lurkers are like 16 plus. And you can easily afford that right here, as long as you don't make as many Hydra. And the Hydra don't really have a big purpose right now. Like, there's no air units from Protoss. He's only got units that are good against Hydra. So if you could get rid of all these Hydra, like let's say make 8 less Hydra, and then make 8 of these into lurkers, you'd have an army that's very lurker ling heavy, and it's actually good against Colossus. And that would give you some more money for Vipers as well. Yeah, so your army is just kind of getting owned here. You definitely need way less Hydra, way more lurkers, and that's the main thing. That's the main reason you're losing here. So you're still ahead, but the lead is definitely a lot less. You're getting the lurker upgrades, okay. Yeah, again, this fight, fairly low in lurkers. It's still trading okay. You definitely have more money than him, so that's nice. Another point is that you did invest in all these Ling upgrades, but you haven't really been using them. So the way you're playing here, like I said, it's not the best, but if you were going to play like this, you would also want the armor upgrades. Lings are definitely better though. Okay, nice setup. Ideally, what you would do here is try to force him to come to you. So I see you're like kind of sitting here ready to yank in his Colossus, which I think is okay. But you could also do something like bring all of your lurkers over here and then kill this base. Maybe you don't know he has that actually. Or you could, again, come in from this side and try to do the same thing. Cool, you got that. I don't see anything additional to add yet. It's mainly just what I said earlier, making more lurkers. Could adjust some of these bases, but this is actually pretty good for your MMR. These actually look pretty nicely saturated, except for this base, I guess. Okay, this fight you actually have a pretty good number of lurkers. So this should be your best fight in the game yet. Where's the Viper? Just need to grab your pull these units in. Yeah, so you definitely crushed him in this fight, and that's because your lurker count was much better. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. And if you mess it up and you just make too many Hydra, you can always use those on like a small counterattack and then just replace them. One thing I find people really underestimate is the power of your injects at this phase of the game. Like, you technically can spend your money without injects if you make the composition you're making, but if you could consistently do your injects better here and have like you could have so much more larvae. You could have like 200 more larvae by this phase in the game, and just consistently while you're making the lurkers and burning your gas bank, making lings at the same time and just sending them to these bases, especially once you get the adrenal glands and +3 melee. If you can get those upgrades, these cannons actually, like shield battery and cannons, will not protect this base. He'll need to place some Archons here or some High Templars. So you can burn all these minerals that you don't even want anyways, just harassing these bases with lings, and that's going to make it so much easier to make your lurkers and to pull him out of position. Okay, yeah, he seized an opportunity here while you were moving and morphing your lurkers. But nothing too problematic. This is fine. You get to snipe this base finally, which is nice. I think in this game I would just keep playing Hydra now that he's going into air toss. So this would be where I would personally swap over into more Hydra, is now that he's playing like Carrier Void Ray. You should have more money as well. That actually might be part of the problem, is you're starting to mine out and not watch your bases as much. So you should definitely have this base, and you should try to take this base as well as Zerg. You should have more bases, for sure. He's starting to get into that death ball army here. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, this is a massive problem. I see this all the time, and it's really, really bad to go into Hydra and into Corruptor because they don't synergize. And if you really, like, you kind of can get them at the same time, but you shouldn't have main fights at the same time because they do opposite things. Like, if you're playing against Carrier and you have Hydra, then you want the Hydra to hit the interceptors. Right? And if you play Corruptor, you want the Corruptor to kill the Carrier and ignore the interceptors. So they're both like competing at different things, and so they're not synergizing very well. Like, you'd rather have only Hydra or only Corruptor. And so if you want to go into Corruptor this phase of the game, then what you should try to do is get rid of these Hydra. You could either morph them into more lurkers, or you could do like a big attack and try to trade them for like a base or something like that. Or in a main engagement earlier and then replace them with Corruptor. So right now he just has like a better composition, and you're going to need to make sure that he doesn't get to the perfect composition while you're stuck on this like inferior composition. So you're doing the right thing here, pushing him pretty aggressively. You definitely want to trade with him at this point and keep trying to deny his bases, or you're going to have to play like a super turtly game because Zerg in the end game is all about playing defense. So you can see here, he's approaching 200 slowly, and we are still on this composition, and your bank is growing really, really rapidly. But we're not trading. So I think that's why we're going to lose. I think you showed a loss. Yeah, that was a really rough fight. Let's watch that again. Yeah, so the problem here is you have no lurkers at all anymore. Oh, 3 lurkers. We have only 3 lurkers. So he has a bunch of High Templar, a bunch of Zealots, and Archon. So again, we would like to have quite a few lurkers here. Honestly, I would go like 16. Maybe that's a little high, but I think that's what I would choose. Right, so we kill his army, but he definitely traded super well there. And we're very broke on the gas. I have another gameplay where I play a very similar, well, maybe not super similar, but a late game where I'm making Lurker Corruptor. So you might want to find that game and watch it and see the difference. I have a game against this tile too that I might upload. That's more against like Disruptor Colossus instead of the air. But I think this is actually a pretty easy fix because I think you know when to do your switches. I think you had pretty good intuition when to go into Corruptors, but you're just making too many Hydra and not enough power units, which is super common in CVP. It's actually really common TVP as well, like just not getting into your tech units fast enough and not improving your army composition as the game gets super late. Yeah, at this point, we just don't have enough economy anymore. And it gets very tricky at this point. So, I think this is actually a really easy fix. I think what you need to do is just stay on a much lurker, heavier composition at this phase of the game. Actually, not this phase. This is your Hydra Bane. But at this phase, once you go into lurkers, yeah, at this phase, start to make more lurkers, less Hydra. And then once you see the mass air switch, that's when you can transition over into more Hydralisk if you want to play very aggressive. Or that's the time that you want to be going into Corruptors. So make your choice there. You can always go in between the two, but it's a little more tricky because you're not going to have upgrades for both. So try to decide there if you want to play really hyper aggressive with Hydra Lurker Viper, or if you want to go into like more Lurker Viper Corruptor, which is a bit more of a passive composition. And then while you're doing that, try to improve your injects so that you can start doing a lot more link counterattacks, which is going to let you trade out your minerals for a lot of these bases and keep Protoss from getting as much economy. And I think if you do those two things, you'll actually be doing really, really well. Cool. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Saving Redditors series. If you did, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I've got lots more Zerg, Protoss, and Terran content coming up. So I will see you in the next one.